Hi guys, what's up? Kevy the Kevlar here. So there has been a lot of debate about whether or not the Nintendo Switch will succeed or fail. Each side of the spectrum has their own opinions and facts, but each side also sees themselves almost like Mario and the other side like Bowser.
Let them fight.
The facts, it seems, are just too stacked against Nintendo at the moment though. Here are the top 5 reasons why the Nintendo Switch will fail. Number 1, it's lacking an insane amount of mandatory features for a modern console. Let's list them out, shall we? All voice chat is done through an app, all party chat is done through an app. There is only 32GB of storage on the console, there is no Ethernet cable, there will be no multimedia apps for quite some time after launch. All matchmaking is done through an app. Your free games disappear after only 1 month and are also restricted to NES and SNES games to boot. Never mind the fact that it has an incredibly tiny amount of power compared to its competitors, the PS4 and Xbox One, though that one is more acceptable due to its portable nature. Less easy to swallow though is that speaking of its portable nature, the thing will never fit in your pocket. You will need a carrying case of some kind most likely if you wish to realistically take this with you on the go on the likes of trains and buses. Number 2, there's like no games. Okay, not literally no games, but there's really not too much to go on here. Legend of Zelda, of course, comes out on March 3rd with the system and is of course expected to be an amazing and instant hit. However, after that, the future looks ridiculously more bleak. There are no more major games for the system for nearly an entire year after Zelda, with Super Mario Odyssey being the main/only good game currently announced for the Switch after launch. Sure, there are smaller first-party games, but ultimately they're not special really, and arguably not worth a purchase under most conditions and circumstances. There is ARMS, a seemingly really basic and odd fighting game, Splatoon 2, which is just an update of the first game, there's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is just a slightly updated port of the Wii U version, there's Xenoblade 2 and Fire Emblem Warriors, which are both probably not coming out for an entire year or so, maybe longer than that. There are also no real major third-party games either, with the closest things being Skyrim and Dragon Quest XI. Dragon Quest XI isn't large at all outside of Japan to begin with, and it's already facing a massive hurdle right out of the gate. And the Switch version is significantly inferior to the PS4 version as shown here, and Skyrim does not fare much better. Now don't get me wrong, I love Skyrim, but it'll be a 6-year-old game once it's released for the Switch, and it will be ludicrously worse compared to all other console versions, notably for its lack of mod support, first and foremost, but also its reduced graphics output. Furthermore, there are unconfirmed rumors that Bethesda is making a smartphone and tablet version of Skyrim, and that the Switch version is actually just a straight port of that. If true, then the Switch is not even good enough to get an Xbox 360 port, which that's what was previously thought it was going to be getting. Number 3, price gouging. Nintendo is arguably objectively anti-consumer in this regard, and massively so. The Nintendo Pro Controller, the standard controller you will heavily desire to play most games with, does not come with the system and costs a whopping $70. The Joy-Con controllers also cost $50 separately, and their bundle of 2, which is the standard control option that Nintendo expects you to play standardly with, costs $80. All of these controllers, of course, arguably pale in comparison to the other controllers that the consoles that Nintendo Switch is competing with have, which are $40 normally on sale. They're normally on sale, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, normally they're $40 and you can get them for even cheaper usually most of the time. Never mind the fact that since the console comes with less than 32GB of memory, you'll have to probably buy an SD memory card. With prices being high for those, you could end up paying well over $150 just to get even half of the storage you get completely for free on the Xbox One and PS4. It's also true that in order to transfer Miis over from the Wii U and 3DS, you need to purchase an amiibo. So instead of a simple free online transfer that would be incredibly easy for Nintendo to create and implement, we now have an additional paywall for the seemingly simple action. Never mind that to do anything online, you need to pay a yearly subscription fee. Now, a yearly subscription fee isn't inherently bad, but considering that it's literally worse than the PS4's and Xbox One's online networks in literally every imaginable way, this does make it bad. You also are not able to even have friends on the system or send messages if you don't pay their online subscription fee, which is just there to make you buy the subscription fee. It's not there to help you out. It's literally there to screw you over and nothing more than that whatsoever. We don't know how much it will cost yet, but looking at the rest of Nintendo's track record with the Switch, we can probably assume that it'll likely cost $50. Now, that $300 initial price tag for the console doesn't seem so cheap now, does it? Number 4. We've seen false signs of success for upcoming Nintendo consoles before. Nintendo has a track record of pulling dirty business practices to make people that are less intelligent or less informed believe that upcoming Nintendo consoles are performing better than they actually are. Nintendo famously pulled its exact tactic with the Wii, which did help its sales by a significant margin, but also with the Wii U, where it drastically didn't. Nintendo creates artificial shortages in order to propel upcoming products into a legendary, unobtainable status. Less informed or less intelligent people naturally assume that the console is selling out well and that there must be a good reason for this, which only entices them to want to purchase it more, or at the very least to learn more about the system. Or at least that's the plan, because on occasions such as with the Wii U, it ludicrously backfires. Case in point, it is a factual statement to say, as we've seen from history, that a showing of great Nintendo hardware sales does not necessarily mean great Nintendo hardware sales. A showing is not a confirmed thing. Just because it looks like it has great sales does absolutely, unquestionably not mean that it's actually having good sales whatsoever in any way. We've seen this many times with Nintendo. There is literally no reason whatsoever in any way they would ever not do this with the Switch. And lastly, number 5. It appeals to nobody. This console does not really appeal to any particular audience besides the Nintendo faithful. Nintendo fans will of course flock to it in droves, but other than that, it doesn't appeal much to people in general at all. Core gamers will prefer the Xbox One and PS4 as they are actually superior hardware in almost every way, especially considering the average core gamer's needs. The Xbox One and PS4 just have so many more games, so many more features. They have so much more value than Nintendo Switch. Some core gamers might get drawn to the Switch if they want to buy it as a secondary console after they already have an Xbox One or a PS4, but otherwise, it's almost impossible to see someone like that buying a Switch as their main console. In regards to casuals, they also are not really going to be turned on by the Switch in regards to wanting to buy it. A big part of the reason why Wii was successful with casuals and the Wii U was not, was that iPads and other mobile devices that casuals use nowadays were not a thing back then. They were just getting started, if that. They had nothing, and they wanted something, so they got the Wii, so they had something. Now they have all these phones and tablets, which to them is ludicrously superior to anything the Switch can provide for them from a casual standpoint, like drastically so. So why would they ever want a Switch? Especially considering that the Switch costs $300 and is only going to play games which they have on their devices that they have already, and they have way more of those games, and they're way cheaper on the devices that they have already. And to top it off too, the Switch really is going to have almost 0 games that appeal to the casual gamer. Like, they have 1-2 Switch, but even then, that is not very appealable to the average casual gamer. It's just not. But again, that's all Nintendo has for the casual audience for a very long stretch. Now, they have some third-party games like Just Dance, but those are on the PS4 and Xbox One and arguably superior there, especially on the Xbox One with Kinect, if any people still have Kinect. But there's probably going to be more Xbox One consoles with the Kinect than there will be Switches for quite some time, if you can actually believe that. A big thing too as well with the Wii, why it was successful, was because the Wii was really interesting. It was really cheap, and it was simple to get. Now, all those things resonate with casuals really well. It's partly why the Wii U didn't resonate well at all. The Wii U was not cheap. It was kind of simple, but not that simple, and it really was just not interesting. It was a tablet, a really downgraded tablet that people have already seen before, so they didn't want to get interested in the Wii U. They didn't want to learn more. There was absolutely no reason to from their standpoint. In regards to the Wii had the very simple motion controls, which were new at the time, but easily learnable, easily gettable. They could get that in a second. It was interesting because of that too, because it was a whole new gameplay thing people had never experienced before, and they wanted to try it out. And it was relatively cheap enough. $250 was definitely cheap enough. The Wii U was $350, which is probably a little bit too pricey. But if the Wii U was actually simple and interesting, it could have gotten by with $350, but it wasn't that, so it couldn't get by. Now, the Switch is going to suffer from those problems a lot too. The Switch is definitely not cheap. Good God, no it's not with these overpriced accessories. It's not even simple. Casuals aren't going to know what it is whatsoever. Are they going to think it's a tablet? Are they going to think it's like an accessory thing? Are they going to think it's going to play Candy Crush? Are they going to think it's a console? Are they going to think it's like some other smartphone thing? Are they going to think it's some apparatus for a TV along the lines of a Roku or a Chromecast? Are they going to really know like what it is at all? Nintendo's not going to be smart enough to market this correctly, and casuals are going to be confused as all hell because they're not going to be able to figure it out themselves. And it's just not very interesting. It has exactly one good game, Zelda, and then nothing else for about an entire year. And Zelda does not even really appeal to casuals. Well, that was my list for today, guys. I'm glad you guys watched, really I am. This is Kevin the Kevlar. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and have a good day.